something new we're going to do here. I'm John Sakaguchi. On location here in Washington County, Pennsylvania, at the Washington and Pennsylvania Trolley Museum, just right off of I-70 north. Today we're filming a new series called Rolling Through History. Over the course of the summer, I'm going to go to different locations around the area of different railroad history landmarks, tourist rides, even some museums. So what better place to start right up the road from California and the PA Trolley Museum. We're going to take a ride on one of the trolleys as well. Let's go through the museum and see some of the rolling stock here, as well as talking to a few of the members that work here. So come along for our adventure. Sit down, enjoy the show. And all aboard.
The Pennsylvania Trolley Museum in Washington, PA is one of 3 located here in Pennsylvania. Started back in 1954 with only 3 cars, has since grown to over 50 pieces of rolling stock, an historical trolley building, and much, much more. The museum operates on the original track bed of the West Penn trolley line that runs just over 4 miles. Our adventure starts back at the base station and here at Station West, home to the gift shop, the visitor center, and a child's play area. There's pictures of trolleys running through the area and across the states, a diagram on how a trolley works, and a picture of Fred Rogers from Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood.
This is kind of a nice display. This talks about how a trolley operates, how this works.
Yeah, that was actually one of the things I had.
You might want to film this. It's the brake off. That's the brake.
After meeting with Scott, he explained the simulator that is at the station, and of course, I couldn't resist.
You put the brake on by moving it to go faster. That shows you how much energy you're using. And that's taken on our line.
You're good. You're good.
Yeah, so it's pretty interesting. And we have people of all ages. We have young kids, we have older people. They really enjoy it. You can sit on the stool if you want.
After messing around with the controls and to Scott's surprise, knowing the proper sequence of how to run on a trolley and signal at crossings, we came to a stop here and Scott explained some more about how a trolley works.
And that's a real controller you're running. So it's all wired into the computer. It's really pretty clever. This is coming up to our old fairground stop, which is all rebuilt now. But
Yeah.
want to slow down. Warning crossing. Got to blow the whistle or the horn. There you go. Another proper sequence. I see that. That's good.
Learned that from an At the Throttle event that I did down in North Carolina.
Yeah. Use the crossing up here, so you definitely want to blow through the crossing. It's a slow down curve. See how it slows down? You see when it slow down. Yeah. You're coming into the station now. You can actually practice and stop at the station. You can shut the power all the way off and then use your brake, and you'll be able to stop at the platform. Wire has 600 volt direct current.
That was one of the things I was wondering was how many volts
the trolley
actually
wheel
goes
is
into
right there, and it comes down like this, and it comes down the wire, and it comes down to the controller, which you were just operating. Okay, that's the controller. And then the way we control the electricity is through resistor grids. So when you first start, most electricity is going through the grids, and as you move the throttle or the controller clockwise, less and less electricity goes in the grids and more goes into the motor.
Okay.
And that's how you control the speed. So it's called a race stack control.
I was always wondered how a trolley operated differently than say like one of the electric locomotives of like old days of Pennsylvania Railroad. Because I know
Well, they're very similar. Very similar. They have resistor grids also. Yeah.
just with a lot bigger motor.
Bigger motors. The Penske used AC, alternating current, and most trolleys are DC.
Okay. And that was the difference. I was always wondering, like, what makes a difference between a trolley and one of the electric cars?
Yeah.
There's,
Mr. Rogers over here. That was filmed at the museum.
That was that's an old episode that I can remember airing at one point when he came down here for that.
Oh yeah. This is your
Station here. We're going to head up next to the car shop. We're going to see some of the cars that are on they have here at the Trolley Museum. So
After we left the visitor center, we climbed on one of the trolley cars here and started heading down towards the visitor building of all the cars they have on the property. But before that, I'll let our guide to explain the trolley we're on, along with some of the other ones here.
I'll be your conductor on this trip. Bob will be our operator. Briefly, what we're going to do today is first we're going to take you up to our trolley display building, give you a tour up there, bring you back here, and then we're going to transfer over to 2711 and take you on a 4-mile round trip ride of our trolley line. This car is from Philadelphia, built in 1926. It's called center door cars, and if you notice, the doors are in the center. The cool thing is, they were able to multiple unit these cars, MU them, so you could run 2 cars together as a train. And when we acquired this car, we also acquired a sister car. So it's down in the shop right now being restored, and at some point in the near future, hopefully, we'll be able to run this as a 2-car train also. So just real briefly too, just a little history of the museum. In 1953, Pittsburgh Railways operated an interurban line from downtown Pittsburgh to Washington, PA. In the fall of '53, they ended that service, and that was around the time the museum was scouting a location. And since this line was going to be abandoned, this was kind of an ideal place to put it. There was a large double-track passing siding here that afforded us room to put cars on. So we acquired, short stretch of track, and in early '54, February I believe, the first 3 cars in the museum actually operated themselves out here to the museum. After that, the tracks were torn up back to Pittsburgh. And between '54 and '63, when the museum opened to the public, volunteers constructed the car house that you see down here. Originally it could hold 9 cars, which we were able to hold our entire collection under one roof. Well, our collection is now around 50 cars, and where we're going, you'll see a much larger building that houses.
So after a quick briefing, we started heading down the line.
You want to explain about the switch throwing and all that?
If you can see through the front windows, you
We
can
rolled
see
up to down the line
main
and
line
came to the
goes
switches
right,
here, where
goes up
they explained on how all
vertically.
trolley switching began and how it's done now. After a brief stop, we continued onto the car building and rolled right on in. After deboarding the car, we
And life
walked
was
in
very
and started
different
looking
back in the
around
early
and
1800s.
came to
You
our
lived in a
first
small
car,
little
an
town.
original old trolley that
Maybe
was
lived on a
horse-drawn.
farm.
And of
You
course,
didn't have a whole lot
I
of
wasn't
need to
afraid to
travel
show
around a lot.
my knowledge
But
of
as
what
the
the car
1800s
was.
became the 1850s and the 1860s, little towns became big cities. Everybody couldn't live next to where they worked, and there was a need for some type of public transportation. And one of the earliest forms was a car like this here, a streetcar. This was not powered by electricity, like the car you rode up on. It was not powered by steam or coal or gasoline. Anybody guess what made this car move?
Horse-drawn.
Horse-drawn, yes. I hide the answer. So you hitch one or two horses or mules on the front, and this will pull you around town. Whopping speed of about 4 miles an hour. Notice, right above all our trolley cars, you'll see a wire. And on the top of the cars, you'll have a pole that's spring-loaded that goes up and touches that wire. That wire has 600 volts DC in it. The electricity will then flow down to the motorman's controls, to the motors, and then back through the rails to the power station. So now, it's the later 1800s. These cars are now powered, and now you're moving quicker, and you don't have to deal with the horses and mules anymore. So life's getting better. It's 1930, and you didn't have a car. You relied on a trolley car to get you to work, school, what have you. So this was critical that they get the lines open. So move down a little further here, and we've got, it's from Rio de Janeiro, but it's very typical of cars that operated in North America in the summertime. On a hot 90-degree day, you're going to go out to picnic or what have you. It's nice to have a car that you've got some air moving around with you. But what's the downside to something like this? What happens if it rains or whatever? So basically, if you wanted to have a fleet of these cars for the hot summer months, you also had a fleet of these for the cold winter months. So it really wasn't all that practical. From either direction, and depending on what direction you're going, one way or another, the seats would flip around to match the direction you were traveling in. Now, even though this car is from Rio de Janeiro, it had its origins in Pennsylvania with the Brill Company in Philadelphia. They basically built this in kit form, sent the parts down to Brazil, and they took their native woods and they took the mechanical parts that the Brill Company sent them, and they built the car. The car 832, promoting the play The Streetcar Named Desire. So when New Orleans was cutting back their trolley service to one tourist line, the Charles Street line, and cars became surplus, we had put a bid in for car 832 for that specific reason. It had some meaning to it. So luckily we were able to acquire this car, and it's been operating at the museum since the 60s, but then New Orleans realizes maybe that wasn't a good idea. We want to start putting trolley cars back into service. Well, they reached out to museums that they sold their cars to for $1, and nobody gave them their cars back.
The car building houses many different
Other cities
types of trolleys from all across the United States, even some from international areas, including an open air one from Rio de Janeiro,
So you can go to New Orleans today and ride this vintage
a snow
trolley
sweeper,
car still, or you can ride a trolley
and
car that looks vintage but is actually a
one that clears away snow on the main line,
So can anybody
along with a rail or replacement car,
this car might?
where there was much more to see. But after that, we exited and went over to what is now all the new trolley station.
And there's always a need to move heavy objects out on the trolley line, whether it be railroad ties, rails, poles, what have you. This has a crane boom that can swing around 360 degrees, can pick up very heavy objects, put them out on the car, and take them to where you need them. Now, this car was built in 1929, so it's an antique. But it's also critical for the operation of the Trolley Museum. You know, unlike if you go to Carnegie Museum, you may look at a dinosaur, and the dinosaur just stands here. You come to our museum, you get to ride the dinosaurs. So even though these cars are antiques, you get to ride them just as you would 100 years ago. So I'm going to take you out back. We've got one more stop in that. Here may be the last existing trolley station in the country. This was located north of Pittsburgh in Wexford, PA. And there was a trolley line that connected Pittsburgh north with Elwood City, Butler, Newcastle. And this was one of the stops along the way. And you may say to yourself, well, what was the trolley station used for?
Inside, we saw what was known as the Wexford Trolley Station, where passengers, freight, and mail were set up for delivery from Wexford to Pittsburgh and anywhere else down the main line.
UPS delivering packages to your door. If you order something from Sears Roebuck, it may go on a train into downtown Pittsburgh and then on a dedicated trolley freight car to a station near. Also, lastly, I'd like to point out here, if you look out these windows,
They also explained about Trolley Street, which is in the process of being built, as you can see here in the photos. Trolley Street should be done by the end of 2022 to somewhere around on spring 2023.
Operational. We just got to get the brick pavement in. And then we're building a significantly larger visitor center. We're just waiting on the steel. So the foundations are in. Steel's supposed to be here later this month. So when you come back later next year, this is where you'll come, to the Trolley Museum. So it'll be a really enhanced experience.
As you can see here, the footers have already been built and the pillars are up. And the start of a nice little water fountain.
Street clock. Beautiful fountain. It's 3 bowls.
The car, but now it's the front, but to switch seats, just much easier than the open car that we looked at. But you can, depending on the direction you were going, or if you wanted to sit and talk with the people you're riding with. Another key feature, you know, before you go anywhere in your automobile, you take your key, you start the engine up, you put it in forward and reverse, forward or reverse, and off you go. Well, we don't have an engine running here, but we do have a key. And this is the key that Bob will put in the controller, and he'll push it forward, make the car go forward.
So after looking at that, we climb back aboard and head back to the base station. You'll see we didn't have to stop this time for the switches, as the tracks were already set. As we pulled into view, we saw all the tourist line trolley, the one that goes the full length of the track, waiting there. But before we get it there, let's take a look at this.
So, folks, you might have saw these along the tracks on our tour through here. Here's one of the signals that you see. This is actually here on the property of the Trolley Museum. You can actually come up and press the buttons here and change the light. So, explain what these are red. Obviously, it's like your car signal. Well, it's red for stop, yellow for caution, and green for all clear.
The people who were already on the car. This one's a little different than the car you were just on. There, I don't know whether you noticed, but you could peek in to see the operator. He was doing everything by hand. Here, we're talking about an accelerator pedal. It has a brake.
So once again, Arian and I climbed aboard another one of the trolley cars. This one a lot newer than the one we were on previously. And a little bit of a smoother ride for us would be here.
Where's the steering wheel? So it's a little easier to operate. You'll see where we come up where the tracks will split. In some places we have electric switches, which if we power through it or glide through it, it determines what direction we're going to go. Other places, if it is not set, we have to get out and use the direction that we want to go.
Look at all the keys.
For example, right here we're coming up to a split in the tracks. He is gliding through that because what we want to do is go to the right.
We climbed aboard and we're off heading back down the line towards the trolley car building. However, this time we would not stop at that switch, as we would roll right through and head for the loop.
Stop the car, power, give it power, which then causes the track to switch. To make sure they're going the right direction. What he did right there was a safety stop. Since we're going into a circle, we want to test the brakes before we head into the circle to make sure it's okay. Now, this circle is important because this is one empty car.
The loop here is used in an empty parking lot that's going to be soon the visitor center, but also helps out during the Washington County Fair time as external parking for them. The trolley line is a big factor that helps out here. During the week of the fair, you can park here, ride the trolley down to the fairgrounds, and catch the trolley on your way back and head off to your car.
Well, in the morning, if I want to take this car out, then I have to back pull it out. There's actually a controller at that end which allows me to gently move it out. But essentially, you don't drive it from that end.
But there are other cars that drive that there's the same operator on each side.
Yes. Here,
But the same kind of controller and brake and stuff like that.
probably they have something very similar.
Yeah, it feels just like when I was on it.
As we exit the loop, we head back down the line, and you'll see there's a small switcher diesel, along with a couple cabooses that are off to the left. As we roll back through the main station, and you'll see the signal that I explained about earlier, and start heading through the crossing. As we roll down the line here, we come back through the fairground station, continue on down the main line. We head for the second loop and the end of the line. As the loop comes into view, you can see off to the left where what was once the main line, and for the West Penn and Trolley line is now just a dead switch. We continue rolling through here as we turn back around and head back down through the main line. Coming into view here, we see the fairground station. Let's take a look around here. Fairground station and in a small open air covered station, and housing for a few people that are waiting for the trolley to go for a ride, or for those that are fairgoers and are ready to head home for the evening. As the gates, the whistles, and everything and pedestrians crossing from the parking lot just across the tracks to head to the fairgrounds. Here comes our trolley now. Oh, so let's watch it as it goes by. As we head back across the main line and through the crossing here on the main road, we see the station as we pull back in, and there's more ongoers ready to go. To Arian and I's surprise, we thought this would be the end of our tour. However, we were both wrong, as we were surprised at this part, as we got to go behind the scenes and take a look here inside the engine shop. Inside here are basic maintenance as well as overhauls and restoration projects for several trolley cars were going on. First one we see, just getting some wiring and basic maintenance done, so it's ready to rock and roll again here soon, as it was out for the trolley parade earlier in the week. As we continued on, we just looked through the machine shop at one of the trolleys that was up on the racks, getting a complete overhaul on rewired, as some of it, just like those in the house, have to be replaced every now and then.
Trolley car house, so it had ladders in. If the wire broke, they'd go out and fix it.
So, this was the
Later on, but originally it was a passenger car, and yes, it did run on the Charlotte line.
So, Bert, a question for you. How much maintenance ends a day before any of the tourists show up these cars go through?
Before the tour shows up, they better be serviced. So we take care of 21 cars. They all come in here once a year, at least. Okay, so the norm is every year. There's about 3 cars you have to keep your eyes open to see what the favorites are. And they'll come in 3 times a year. And then anything that's, of course, is a problem, then it comes into. So if you did 21 cars, that's almost to a month just to look, just for annual, and then the other things. And then we try to always have like a let's say extended maintenance or long term. Like if you go to the back on this track, actually it's north, you'll see a car up on Jack's, a red one. That's kind of like extended. Well, it's actually restoration. We're rewiring it. We've been on that since mid-November, so we're coming to the end of that. So we always like to keep something that's time-consuming in here. To if we have more people than what we can use on annual stuff, and keep them on extended stuff.
Now, I know diesel locomotives, steam locomotives all have certain parts that have to be taken care of daily. On here, or what?
There's really nothing daily on these. The controllers could be weekly if they ran them. Usually typically they don't run them more than, even the cars that operate, they'll about run them maybe 2 days a week, and then we'll switch off to something else. This only runs maybe twice a year, not for passengers. So, but it's like
or the track service crew.
No.
We had a trolley parade last Saturday.
Okay.
It was in the trolley parade.
It'll be out here in a week or so, and then we'll get something else in here. But both of these cars, in fact, the dump car in the middle, you want to walk down this way. We did what we did is we stole the trucks from it, got them totally rebuilt, put them on another car, took those trucks, put them on this car. So that in itself was a lot of work. And then we get into there were some wiring issues with this and some piping issues. Not so much piping. a fair amount of wiring. So we took care of that. This runs rarely. It's a side dump car. If you've got a washout where you need stone on one side of the track, it's good for that. We have another dump car that puts stone in the middle, between the tracks, between the rails. That's a little bit more useful.
And how often do these usually get used during the year?
Depends on the projects.
Yeah, well, like I said, this is more or less, this might be used once a year. It depends on what track maintenance goes on. See, typically they do a lot of tire replacements, so they might only need the center dump a little bit. But this year and last year, they did a lot of rail replacements. The new track.
Yeah, the Trolley Street you saw down there. They used it a lot for that.
And probably had a lot of time replacing all the ties, ballasts, and
Yeah, well, ties, the tire will last 20 years. So what our guy tries to do is do 5% a year, which is still a lot of ties, believe me. And,
It's a very clever machine. This has 3 beds on it. Actually, the whole bed will come out on a cable system, and then it tilts at a 45-degree angle, and these doors are pinned at the top, and they swing out, and then the material falls out. So it's really
even
clever.
though the GE was part of it, and so you have to get into Westinghouse drawings, GE drawings, Pittsburgh Railways drawings, and then finally the big major breakthrough was we found a St. Louis Car Company drawing. St. Louis Car Company is the people that actually put these together, and they had their own drawing, and it was much more complete and inclusive than the other bunch of drawings. So that was a major breakthrough on this car. So right now my team has, like, I'm going to say 1,500 hours on this. And we tested some of the air system last week, and we're going to maybe hopefully test some of the low voltage this week. But you can see there's a ton of wires in this. Ton of wires.
So this is our oldest streamliner. It was built in 1937 by St. Louis Car Company for Pittsburgh. And it's had a lot of work done on the body and on the, what we call the trucks, the undercarriages, and now the rewiring will be the final piece pretty much.
Yeah, since it has air brakes, we did a lot of air piping replacement too.
Continuing to the back here, we see either several different and trolley motors and how they worked between the single wheels along with the double trucks.
So this apparatus,
There we also see the air compressor for the brake lines, along with several others.
Oh, it's a lot bigger.
so this is a 600 volt motor. Half of it and the other half is a 36 volt generator. And then the belts drive the compressor, and the same shaft runs this fan. The fan puts cooling air into the resistors, which modulate the speed of the car. It throws off a lot of heat. They could waste a lot of energy by today's standards. So
that's not a good thing.
no.
Want to show them the trolley motor? I cleaned everything off of it. You can put the lights on here. That motor's for that car. That's the commutator.
50% bigger than that, but probably the same horsepower. It's 1905. This might have been designed in the mid-20s. That's a GE. I guess another car's Westinghouse. I don't know what it is.
The car's Westinghouse.
Most of our stuff is Westinghouse.
Yeah, I think this is a 25.
25 horse.
Yeah. But still, it's...
After looking around a little bit, we climbed up onto the overview of the building, and you could see every car along the building as Scott breaks down on how some of these cars, where they came from, and how they work, and what kind of restoration are going into them.
And then they put linseed oil on the canvas, and it would shrink up like a drum. So you tack it around. There's a tack strip there. And so that's how most of the cars are done. Even the streamliner has canvas in the middle of it. And one of the reasons they used canvas was if you had to go up on the roof to fix something and you touch the overhead wire, you would not get electrocuted because the canvas is not a conductor like metal is.
Right.
So you wouldn't be grounded.
This makes it a lot safer for whoever you got to go up there.
Those square holes you see, those are where the ventilators go.
Okay.
So this is, we have two. This is our restoration track. These are longer-term projects than what Bernie had. So this is these are both Philadelphia cars. The green car ran in the city of Philadelphia, and the maroon car ran in the suburbs. And you rode the sister car to that this morning. So you've already been on it. So what we're doing here is we put a new wooden roof on it. And one thing I thought we might want to do is go upstairs and get a nice shot of the whole shop. We'll go up there next. But this is an older version. This is a pre-streamliner. This car ran until 1957. If you go inside, you'll see that we removed the ceiling. We're going to put new ceiling panels in. We're rebuilding all the electrical components, air brakes, new doors on the car. A lot of the windows have been rebuilt or replaced.
Now, this is the one thing I did want to ask about. Is something I noticed different?
That's a handbrake.
The handbrake. I was
Yeah,
wondering.
now that was in the maroon car you were on today, but it was in the operator's cabin. You
So
might
I
not
wouldn't have been able to see it.
Yeah, so that you spin that around. The handbrake is usually used for two reasons. One, for emergency stops. You lost your air, need to stop the car. Or two, if you're on a steep hill and you're parking it for a while, you put the handbrake on.
Only a couple.
So this one, the roof ceiling panels are bad. We're replacing pieces of the roof. You can see the new wood is painted white. Floor's been repainted. Seats are being out, reupholstered. So our hope is to have this car out on the line in a couple of years. It's all pretty much being worked on by volunteers.
I think the next question, when you have to restore, do a whole restoration project, usually what's the time it takes on one?
It just depends on the condition of the car when you start, the amount of funding, and the amount of time you have to put into it, your volunteers and what have you. So this car is not in terrible shape. We've had cars a lot worse than this. We have basically, the people working on it are pretty young people. They're like in their teens and 20s. So they were here last night working on it. And you know, it's going to be a nice car when it's done. You can see the coupler down here. It'll couple up to the other car that you rode on today. It'll run as a two-car train. Something you don't.
After finishing up our tour of the engine shop,
Well, yeah.
Scott led us to the original trolley cars where we would sit down to do our interview. Take a listen to this.
Figure somebody might work on it 8 hours a week.
That's for a car. That's like $43.98. A car that's in really.
No,
This is in terrible shape, but it's. You're right. I mean, it's going
by
to
the
take.
time you do the piping, the wiring, and the
Yeah.
steps, you're going to have.
Yeah, there's
You're
time.
going to have a lot.
So here at the Trolley Museum, you know, with one of the operators and one the volunteers here with.
I'm Scott Becker. I'm the executive director. You want me?
Oh, Scott, one of the questions I've been wondering, and of all the locations in southwestern Pennsylvania, why are you right here or smack dab in the middle of Washington, Pennsylvania?
So the museum actually got started as a small group of people that started to collect some old trolleys that were being retired, and they started with a pay car that was built in 1890 originally. They had this car here we're sitting on, and the car right next to it. So the first three cars are actually right here. And this car was built in 1930. It was used in the Allegheny Valley by West Penn Railways. It ran from Aspinwall all the way up to New Kensington and all the way to Tarentum. And it was named the Miss Brackenridge. And the other car was a Pittsburgh Railways car, built in 1925. So they had these three cars, and they moved them to a car house that wasn't really being used in the west end of Pittsburgh. But they knew it was temporary, so they needed to find a permanent home. They looked at a number of locations, and the location out here in Washington County was nice because the track was still there. The line had been abandoned in end of August 1953, and it was still connected to Pittsburgh. And what's more important is that the land underneath the track was owned by Washington County. So they approached the Washington County commissioners, and the commissioners liked the idea of having a trolley museum out here. So they gave them a lease in perpetuity to have the cars here. So on a cold February day in 1954, the first 3 cars came out under their own power. The line was still connected from Washington down to Pittsburgh, at least from here, so they could move them out without trucking them. So that was a big plus. So the cars came out here and they sat for a while, and the volunteers actually built this building we're in pretty much by hand. They used the roofs of the cars as the scaffolding, and so this building was finished around 1960, and the museum opened to the public in June of 1963.
Well, something I had seen in a little bit of history was this wasn't originally called the Trolley Museum. This was called, I believe, the Electric Trolley Pittsburgh Club. Something along the lines of that. I might have edited it backwards.
Well, it was originally the Pittsburgh Electric Railway Club.
Okay.
And then as the museum got started, its official name was the Pittsburgh Railway Museum Association, but the trade name was the Arden Trolley Museum, A-R-D-E-N. And the reason they picked Arden is this is the Arden section of Washington.
Okay.
So that's what they had at that time. So when they opened in 1963, it was called the Arden Trolley Museum.
All right. And now, today, it's known as the Pennsylvania Trolley Museum.
Right. The museum changed its name in 1992 because, first of all, no one knew where Arden was. And second, the collection is mostly from Pennsylvania, so it made sense to call it the Pennsylvania Trolley Museum. And that name has really stuck. So it's worked out well.
Yeah. So, about a roundabout number, or how many trolleys are here or on the premises, and about how many of those get to operate?
So we have 50 trolleys, and 21 of them operate on a regular basis. So we still have a ways to go. We have a long to-do list.
Those good things come to those who wait. So be excited to see when the day comes that all of those will be up and operational. Well, how many usually operate a day, though?
Usually we have 2. So on a typical day when a visitor comes down, there's a ride trolley that goes the full 4-mile round trip, and then there's a tour trolley which goes halfway down the track to the trolley display building, and they get a guided tour while they're in the trolley display building. So they get to ride 2 different trolleys. Often we try to have an older trolley and a streamliner so they get to see the difference between them.
Right. And something that I also wanted to ask is, I know you guys do help out during fair time here with the Washington County Fairgrounds being a hop, skip, and a jump away. How many trolleys do you guys have to run that end? Because I know you help out all getting people in and out of the fairgrounds.
It really depends on how busy the fair is, but usually the busiest night can be the Wednesday night and the second Saturday night. So the Wednesday night they have band night and they have school bus demolition derby. Those are really popular. So last year we carried over 1,000 people in that one night, Wednesday night, and we ran 7 cars. So that's really the most we can run, and that's using all the passing sidings and everything. But what's really nice is we're able to move the crowds very efficiently. We have volunteers that come from all over the country to help out, and it's a lot of fun.
What are some of the special events you guys get to do here?
Well, this year we started out with Bunny Trolley, which is our Easter event, which starts out usually in April, depending on when Easter is, and that was very popular.
I saw all tickets were always selling out instantly for those.
We do online ticketing here, which really helps because people can buy them online early. And then the next event we had was Dinosaur Trolley. That was in May, and that was also very popular. And then in beginning of June, we had 2 events. We had the Western Pennsylvania Trolley Meet. This building here was cleaned out. We had all kinds of vendors. We had model trolley layouts and that sort of thing in here. And we had trolley parades. The other thing we did that same weekend is we had an event called Anything on Wheels, and that was a classic and antique car show. We had all kinds of special use vehicles like drilling rigs and cement trucks and UPS trucks and all kinds of things. And we had over 80 cars a day come to that event, so that was very popular. Then the next event we'll have is the Washington County Fair, as you talked about. That starts the 17th of August and runs for 8 days. And we run literally 10 in the morning to almost midnight every day. So we have 3 shifts of volunteers, and it's a lot of fun. We typically carry over 5,000 people in 1 week for the fair.
Oh.
So that's a lot. And then in the fall, we have some nice events. We have a Pumpkin Patch Trolley event in October. We also have a new event called Trolley Trick or Treat Trolley. And we do also have an event in Christmas time called Santa Trolley and Trolleys and Toy Trains. And we are adding some new events for adults. Like last year, we had Distilling the Trolley Era, where we worked with Liberty Pole Spirits, a local distillery, and we had whiskey tasting at night with some actors, and we're looking to do more events like that. So that's a different audience, but there's so many things that we can do here.
Yeah, and one event, and I looked at as well that you guys do is operator for an hour.
Yeah, that we do throughout the year. So what happens there is you can actually basically rent a trolley, if you will. You're with an instructor, and you get to run a trolley for an hour, whether it be foot control car, streamliner, or the old hand control cars. And we've found that's a lot of fun. And also what happens there is that quite a few of the people that do it become volunteers and become operators here because they like it so much. So that's a great thing. So that's a lot of fun. The other thing we do a lot of are birthday parties. You can have your birthday party here. So we have a room, events room, where you can have the party. We actually put your name, whoever the birthday is for, their name and age up on the roll sign, and they get to take the sign with them when they're done, and they have just their party is on the trolley for that. So it's very popular. We do a lot of special programs. This year we have a lot of school groups that come. We have merit badge classes for both Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts. Something brand new this year is we're going to have a summer camp, and that's for ages 6 to 12. And we have camps for 6 to 10, I think it is, and then 10 to 12. So you can go online and look at that flyer. So lots of interesting programs. We're always coming up with new ideas.
That leads me to ask what is one of the biggest projects going on currently at the museum?
Well, the biggest project is our East Campus expansion. So right now we have the Trolley Display Building there, which is 28,000 square feet, our biggest public building. We have our Wexford Trolley Station there. We have our Artifact Preservation building there. But what we're doing is we're actually adding more to that. I can show the drawing and walk you through the drawing, so we'll do that. Okay. So if you look at this, if you can zoom in on that. So this is the Trolley Display Building where we give tours right now. This is the 1908 Wexford Trolley Station. So we're also building Trolley Street, which is going to be 2 tracks in brick, just like an old street would have. And then the biggest piece is this Welcome and Education Center, which is 21,000 square feet. So from the road, it's going to look like this. This will be the building here. We're going to have a large special events area next to it, grassy area. We can have all kinds of special events, and of course, a new parking lot. So this will be our new front door. Some other features we're going to have is the inside of the building. We'll talk about that next. So if you look here, this will be the parking lot side front. When you come in, we'll have a large museum store. We'll have 3 multi-purpose rooms which you can rent. So for birthday parties or a banquet, you can seat up to 160 people. In these 3 rooms, we'll have a full-size AV wall, which we can use for all kinds of presentations. It's going to be a trolley theater as well. Towards the back, we're going to have 2 different exhibit rooms, and the exhibit rooms are going to be full of exhibits that the Carnegie Science Center has been developing for us, and these are interactive STEM exhibits. We'll also have a trolley front where the trolley operator simulator that you tried out today, that'll be going there, and we'll have a dedicated classroom over here. So this is really going to be a fun place, a lot going on, and we'll look at another view of Trolley Street. So this is looking out the back door, and we're going to have a canopy for 2 cars. There's a 2-car train pulling in, so people will be out of the elements when they're waiting to get on the trolley. It'll be quite nice. And then the last thing we have, which is kind of exciting, is our Barry Stout Park. So Barry Stout was a state senator who was very, very supportive of the museum. Unfortunately, he passed away, and we're building this park in his memory. So over here we have some specially designed playground equipment, look like trolleys. Towards the back, we're going to have a nice gazebo and park area. So really, it's going to give us a much more varied experience for our visitors. We think they're going to stay longer because there'll be more to do. And we're hoping to have this open next summer of 2023.
Look forward to seeing that. And that leads me to this question as well. Well, if people want to donate, how could they do that?
Easiest way is to go to our website, which is patrolley.org. So it's www.patrolley.org. There's a place there where you can donate. You can also become a member. You can also become a volunteer.
So ready to ask, is there a way that you also be a volunteer here?
And then the other thing is people mail us checks. We're tax deductible, so any donation you make can be tax deductible. And our address is 1 Museum Road, Washington, PA, 15301. So it's pretty easy to remember. 1 Museum Road, Washington, PA, 15301. Yeah. You can call us on our telephone, 724-228-9256. And we're always appreciative of the donations that we get. We get a lot of donations from individuals, and we have a lot of different projects. We walked through the restoration shop earlier, and most of those projects are funded by donations. Right. The money that the museum generates through ticket revenue, that goes towards paying the electric bill and things like that.
To keep the power on to move the cars around.
Well, and speaking of the electric bill, one thing that's quite interesting is that we actually have solar energy panels on our main trolley display building, and we just received a grant to put more panels on the building as well as on the new building. So when those panels are all installed, we should be able to generate all the electricity we need at the East Campus to both run the trolleys and light the buildings. So it'll be quite exciting. We're even going to have electric vehicle charging stations so you can charge your electric vehicle using the sun.
A lot of big things going on here. Something that I wanted to ask about, because it was just curiosity. It was getting to me. Something I saw was a piece of rolling stock that's not a trolley. It was the 2 switcher engines here.
Sure. We have 2 standard gauge diesel locomotives. One is Armco Steel B73. It's the oldest running diesel locomotive in the United States, built in 1930 by Baldwin Westinghouse. So Baldwin Locomotive Works was a prominent manufacturer of steam locomotives in Philadelphia, and they did a joint venture with Westinghouse Electric in Pittsburgh. So they built the frame and the wheels and everything in Philadelphia, shipped it out to Pittsburgh where they put the engine in and the electrical gear, and it ran in Butler at Armco Steel. The other engine is a H.K. Porter, which was also a local Pittsburgh company. They were in Lawrenceville, and they built that locomotive in 1942 for the U.S. Navy, and later on it was at Pennsylvania Transformer in Canonsburg, and they're the ones that donated it to us. And we also have an old caboose, Monongahela Railway Caboose 73. So
one of the 3 cabooses from the Mon Railway that I know is still in existence today.
Yeah, there's 2. There's at least one over in Brownsville, I know, and there's one in Washington on South Main Street.
I didn't know about the one in South Main Street. I knew the one in Brownsville. I've been up to that one on a couple of different occasions, but now I know the location of the third. So all 3 pretty much in its home territory. Right.
One of the things that's unique about the museum is that we actually have 2 gauges of track. So the gauge is the distance between the rails, and the diesel locomotives I just told you about, they're standard gauge, which is 4 foot 8.5 feet wide between the rails. We also have our trolleys, which are 5 foot 2.5, so they're 6 inches wider than railroad, and we're the only trolley museum that has that broad gauge. And the reason we have that is that both Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, also Cincinnati, Columbus, and New Orleans all had that broad gauge, and we have cars from all those cities.
So it makes it easier to operate in each car up here. I was curious about why there was like a
different track along the way. Now it makes sense as to why. Hey, those are here. So, Scott, thanks for your time, and we appreciate you showing us around the museum.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for having me sit down with you today, and look forward to seeing this on YouTube.
Well, that's all we have for today's adventures. I want to say thank you to the Pennsylvania Trolley Museum for everything, and to Scott for being our guide, and sitting down and talk with us, to Bernie for showing us everything mechanical, and how the trolleys work, and everything that they have going on over in the machine shop. Also, thank you to Elizabeth for helping me get everything set up. And if you want more information on the Trolley Museum, you can go to patrolley.org. You can donate, join to be a member, or join to volunteer. Also, you can find their schedule of all different events and things going on there. May all your signals be green, and I'll see you down the line. Take care, everyone. All aboard!